shoot them all down. Tell me all the things that can go wrong.
I tell you the good and the bad.
Yeah, you're quick to be like, I'm like, oh, I have this really good idea. And you're like, well, yes and no. Let's talk about why that's not a good idea. So it's just...
I give you a pros and cons.
Yeah, largely cons. Or maybe I just take it harder because I'm such an optimist. But I came upstairs. You were sitting in our giant bedroom that was still like really empty. We didn't have anything in it. And I think that's a sign like we didn't really want that much stuff. We never like filled it. I didn't ever want to fill it.
I've never had much.
Yeah.
I never.
Yeah, it was this big space and I felt like I had to fill it, but I didn't want to. Like it just felt like too much. But anyway, you were sitting in there. And I remember coming up and kind of being like, hey, we've been kind of stressed. And I just like eased my way into it, but told you that I thought we should downsize.
Let's keep it simple. Life is hard enough. Welcome to the Unstuffed Podcast.
It's me, Renee. Welcome back to the Unstuffed Podcast. I have a super special episode for you guys today because this is episode 100. I wanted to do something because today is episode 100. I wanted to do something really special, and I'm going to try to get through this without laughing, because I felt like it would be really cool to have Tom on the episode with me, since he has been a big part of the downsizing journey, the minimalist journey, and people ask a lot of questions about like, how did your husband respond when you said you wanted to downsize, and how did your husband feel? How did that go? Or people who struggle with decluttering because their husbands don't want to. So we're going to dive into all of those things today, since that's stuff I get asked about a lot. Just bear with us, because while I can do interviews with just about everybody, Tom and I tend to have bouts of the giggles, and he's also a 100% introverted person who really is pushing his comfort zone to be on this podcast today. So I am very excited to have him on. We're going to dive into all the goodness. Before we do, I wanted to read one of the reviews for the Unstuffed podcast back to you guys. These reviews mean so much to me. I absolutely love reading them. So if you're a longtime listener of the podcast, I would love it if you took a minute or 2 minutes to drop a 5-star review and leave me a little comment like this to let me know how the podcast is impacting you. Today's review is from Liv Mac V, maybe? It says, we're a match. I don't know if it's your voice, your story, the content of what you're talking, or if I just have found someone that knows exactly what I need to hear. Your podcast makes me feel calmer and makes me want to change even more. I admire the way you turned your life around and you didn't let yourself be another victim of our everyday life. I love how positive you are. Thank you for being you, honest, funny, straight to the point. Love listening to your podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Livy. Thank you so much, Livy, for taking the time to leave that. These types of reviews just make my heart sing, because this podcast has been something that has been on my heart for years. So taking those bold steps to actually make it happen is really nerve-wracking. So I love so much that it's helping any of you, all of you, impacting you guys in some way. And these reviews just mean the absolute world to me. So thank you for that. And now we're going to try to dive into this episode. I don't know how this is going to go, but hi, Tom. Okay, so on the pod, just like focus on me. Don't look at this. Okay. So I talk a lot on the podcast about our downsizing, about minimalism and everything like that. But people ask a lot of times like how you felt about when we downsized. But before we talk about that, I thought it would be fun to talk about when we bought our big house, because it was a really stressful thing, really for you. It was stressful for me. But do you want to talk about how you felt before we before we signed the papers to downsize? because like I remember, so what had happened is that we were looking for a house. We were had all of these expectations. We wanted, I wanted like room for a photography studio. We wanted to have rooms for each of the kids. We had all of these expectations, and we had looked through all of these houses. None of them were right, and we were living in Tom's parents' basement for 3 weeks after our townhouse had sold. And so when we both kind of started to have reservations about our big house, it was just really stressful because our older daughter was living with her friends so that she could be closer to school. We were living in his parents' basement, which was like half hour away. Um, and backing out of the sale would have added a whole level of stress. So like the day we went in to, or the day before we went to sign the papers, how did you feel?
Stressed, overwhelmed. I didn't want the house. I felt that it was going to create problems financially, and I was worried about what it was going to do to us with the extra stress that it put on me. I really didn't want that house. Um, I knew the payment was not what I wanted. I was just, I don't know, felt very overwhelmed, really stressed out, and I wanted to back out of it. I mean, obviously, we kind of rushed and called a different realtor just to go look at a couple other houses to see what else was available. But
We
yeah,
did. I don't remember that.
yeah, we looked at a couple other houses in that neighborhood over there. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
I realized that one that had that really, really tiny driveway.
Yeah, I remember the tiny driveway. I guess I didn't remember that was like a last ditch.
That was like, that was 2 days. We looked at one 2 days before we signed, and one day before we signed.
With a different realtor?
Yeah, with a different realtor. Obviously, it was a realtor that was selling those houses, but they were both in the same neighborhood, close to where we were living, just to see what else was available and all that. But obviously, we would have lost our down payment, everything like that. So that was another stressor on top of that.
Yeah. So like when you say like the payment would be stressful, this is something that I always think back on. This is something we talk about all the time. That we kept getting like an estimate on what our monthly payment would be. And like as the date got closer to signing the papers, the number just went higher and higher and higher and higher because you were really concerned about the monthly number. And at first we thought it would be like an additional like $300-400 a month. And that was already like, okay, like that's pushing our comfort zones. But then it was like, no, it's gonna be 500 more. No, it's gonna be 700 more. And it just kind of kept climbing higher and higher. Like and I've learned is a really unprofessional experience for our realtor to have done that. To have given us those numbers and kind of like misled us in that way.
Well, that kind of talking me into taking a loan out of my 401k for a down payment.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it was, obviously we used somebody that we thought we could trust, and so it was very difficult.
it was. It was a really stressful situation. But I think I've had people ask me like you specifically, since you were like the sole breadwinner. Like I had my photography business at the time, but Tom was like you are our main focus, like which I think is something really good we decided to do early on was like we are going to live off of your income. My income is just kind of like background income. So we always made sure we could get by with just your one income rather than like planning our life off two. I'm thankful for that, but being that main provider, I've had people ask me like what kind of stress that put on you.
Well, I mean, because well, I mean, like my position at work, obviously I'm salary, so it's not like I can try and put in any extra time to get extra hours and extra money and all that. Because no matter what I work, I'm bringing home the same amount of money. So I mean, there's times where I felt I needed to go get a second job just to provide because we were pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. for this house.
I feel like, I think back and I'm like, I don't think we needed to.
I mean, like we obviously we I don't feel like we managed our money the best and stuff like that. We could have did a better job kind of prioritizing things and stuff like that. But I mean, you know, it's just it was a lot higher than what we wanted to pay. Being in that kind of a neighborhood, you know, it was kind of a wealthier neighborhood. I mean, than what we were in and all that. Kind of felt like we had to kind of live more of that
Keep
lifestyle.
up with the Joneses.
Yeah, keep up with, you know, everything like that, which put a lot of stress on me. And I mean, just obviously, I didn't feel like we didn't have time for each other and our kids really. It was just pretty much trying to maintain our house and everything like that.
So do you think if we could have better managed our money, because we were bad at that, we just spent like without thought. Whenever we wanted something, we just bought it. Whenever we like wanted to go out to eat, we went out to eat. We didn't really think about it. I think that was bad. But that, and then like if you could have let go, because this didn't really affect me as much as it did you, but like if you could have let go of the idea that like you had to have your house look a certain way or we had to keep up. So if we were able to manage our money and you weren't worried about what other people thought, do you think we would have stayed in that house, or would you have wanted to?
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was a beautiful home. I mean, obviously, we kind of liked that neighborhood ever since we lived in that area in our townhouse. After being in that house, though, no, it was too much. I I really like that we're in a smaller house. It's easier to maintain. I mean, we spent hours just cleaning that thing. We had multiple rooms that we didn't need that we felt like we had to fill. I mean, we don't need that formal dining room. We don't need a formal living room.
Right.
Um, we didn't need the loft. We didn't need five bathrooms. I mean, it was too much. I mean, to me, it was too much. I mean, people love that stuff, like you know, like those houses and all that. I mean, that's great for them, but I mean, it's too much for me.
Yeah. I know. It was like all these things I was really excited to have. Like I remember our master bedroom had like the double doors. I was like, oh my god, I always wanted the double doors, you know.
And
Well, it was like
I remember just walking to turn the light on.
oh yeah.
Felt like it took an hour.
Our very first night staying in the house, we were like in our bed, and our room was just like a dresser and a bed. Like it's basically we had less than we do now, but the room was like 3 times the size. It was just huge. And did you go to turn the light on? Yeah, because the lights were off, and Tom was furthest away from the light switch. So we had the lights off in the middle of the night, and he's got up to go turn the light switch on. And as he was walking, he goes, "I'm almost there." Like he had to give me an update on where he was because like the journey was so long to get there. And it's kind of funny because it really was, and it was just like something I wanted so bad, but then we got it, and was like, oh, like this, it just, yeah, it felt like so much excess. To me, it felt really gross. Like we don't need all of this space.
I mean, like I said, it was a beautiful house. I mean, I mean, because obviously, you know, my aunts and uncles a few of my aunts and uncles have really big houses, bigger than the house that we lived in, and I was always kind of jealous of it. And I always wanted something like that. When we got it, it was too much.
Yeah. No, same.
I mean, I'd rather spend my weekends, you know, with you and the kids, or going on our hikes, going mountain biking and stuff like that, versus trying to clean that thing.
No. Well, and that's what I remember you saying. So I don't remember what you said exactly, but you were talking about the payment, um, like our monthly payment. You were like, we could just be doing so much else with this money. Like if we weren't putting it all just to live here, like we were paying just to like live in that house, just to stay there. And you said that, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know, it just like kind of clicked with me in a way where it was like, yeah, like even if we could free up like $500 or something, like $500, you can do a lot of stuff with. Like we could go on vacations. We wouldn't have to, you know, like less stressful vacations, you know, because I feel like our vacations at the time, I felt obligated, like we have to go on vacations because I wanted to take vacations with just you. I was always worried about like our marriage falling apart because I grew up in like all my broken home families. So I like always wanted to prioritize vacations with you, but it almost felt like just one more thing. Like we have to have this vacation. It just became like another obligation, I think. And then we came home, and it just like I feel like instantly went right back. And even when we went on vacation, we were still stressed. Do you feel like that now? Like when we go on vacation? I mean, you are a ball of stress, so I don't know, but
Not so much now.
yeah, like I feel like I don't need like when Tom and I first went on our first all-inclusive vacation, we were both like laying in the pool, maybe like had a drink in our hand or nearby. And I think like one of us asked the other one, like, "Are you relaxed?" I think it was me. I was like, "Are you relaxed?" You were like, "No, not at all." Like it was like so hard to like unwind and just exist and just enjoy the vacation. And then we came home and it was still stressful to come back home. But I don't feel like that now. Like I'm happy to come home. I don't think I felt that before.
I actually enjoy when I'm gone now
Yeah.
on vacations and stuff like that.
I feel like I enjoy when I'm gone, but are you glad to come home?
I mean, depends on where I'm at.
Yeah.
If I'm in the mountains, I never want to come home. But I mean, I like coming home to our house.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's easy.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I gotta come home and the next day I gotta spend 5 hours cleaning it.
Right.
It's a quick, easy pick up, and
Yeah. So that's okay. So I still remember, and I've shared this story before about like when I thought we should downsize. I think I had just been reading a lot of like self help spiritual books and had come across like the minimalists, their documentary. And I'd read, I think at this point I had read books on minimalism, but it hadn't been like a big thing in my life. And I'd kind of gone through and decluttered my closet and just wanted less stuff to maintain. But it was mostly like a spiritual thing for me. Like I didn't want to be attached to my things anymore. But I remember sitting in like that big green reading chair, which I loved, and we probably should have kept since now you're like on a mission for that exact same chair, basically. But I was just like, oh my god, I just had like this epiphany, like this really good idea. But we weren't really talking to each other very much at the time. Like our relationship was really strained. Financially, you were stressed because you were always stressed. I like spent maybe the first year or so like always trying to make sure you're okay and always trying to be happy, and I was always trying to earn more money, and like I wanted to be like the buffer to make everything okay because I knew things weren't and I knew you were stressed. And then I decided like I didn't want to be in charge of your emotions anymore because I'm not. You're in charge of your emotions. But then like that just kind of meant like we just didn't really talk anymore then because I wasn't trying to like be all like happy and cheerful around you anymore. I just kind of kept my distance from you. And so like I remember coming up to talk to you was like I was like really excited, but I wanted to like play it cool because I'm such a like I have a genius idea. I'm like so quick to have all my wonderful ideas. And you're like so quick to shoot them all down. Tell me all the things that can go wrong.
I tell you the good and the bad.
Yeah, you're quick to be like, I'm like, oh, I have this really good idea. And you're like, well, yes and no. Let's talk about why that's not a good idea. So it's just.
I give you a pros and cons.
Yeah, largely cons. Or maybe I just take it harder because I'm such an optimist. But I came upstairs. You were sitting in our giant bedroom that was still like really empty. We didn't have anything in it. And I think that's a sign like we didn't really want that much stuff. We never like filled it. I didn't ever want to fill it.
I've never had much.
Yeah.
I never.
Yeah, it was this big space and I felt like I had to fill it, but I didn't want to. Like it just felt like too much. But anyway, you were sitting in there. And I remember coming up and kind of being like, hey, we've been kind of stressed. And I just like eased my way into it, but told you that I thought we should downsize. I feel like I remember how you responded. Do you remember how you felt?
I don't remember exactly how I felt. I just felt like relieved, like a big weight was lifted off my shoulders. I mean, like happy. Let's do this. Let's start looking. Even though like we just refinance the house because our property taxes kept going up. So I mean, our house payment kept going up. So we had to refinance, and still just to get, I mean, still to be paying more than what we originally went in and stuff like that. But I was like relieved. I wanted out of that house so bad, and it just felt like a fresh new start.
Yeah. That's how I remember, like, I feel like you got like your eyes lit up and you got like a smile on your face, and you were like, we just refinanced. It was like you were saying all of the reasons that it would be a bad idea. Like, we just refinanced, and like, how are we gonna do this? But yet you were doing it like, let's, like, excited, like you really, really wanted to do that though. And something I think back on, and something I talk about, is like, I can't remember what it's called now. I'm thinking, now that I'm saying it, I can't think. Um, Sunken cost fallacy. The sunken cost fallacy is like, people don't want to keep putting money into something, or people want to keep putting money into something because they've already put money into it. You know, like, or people have already invested their time in something. That's like if you were in a relationship that was like terrible and bad, but you keep staying in it for longer because you're like, well, we're already together and we already share stuff. You know, 17 years. Yeah. Ah, hilarious. But like with the house, I remember kind of having that feeling, like, I didn't know about the sunken cost fallacy, but like that someone else would have stayed in the house. People would have stayed in the house because like they're already in the house. They're already putting their money toward the house. But like, I just remember thinking like, there was that part of me that felt like we should just stay here and make this work. But the other part of me was like, or we should just like cut our losses right now and just get the hell out of here. And whatever, and I said that, I'm like, whatever goes bad, goes bad. Like, it's just going to have to go bad because we need to reset. And that was the only way I felt like our marriage would survive, our family would survive. And that was way more important to me than just like forcing the house to work. But I think about that, and I think about when we first signed the papers, a big part of why we didn't back out of the sale, which seems so dumb to me now. Like, we were so dumb. It's like, we didn't want to back out of the sale. And because our realtor kept saying, like, you'll lose that 2,000 because we put 2,000 down. And now I'm like, oh my God, we would have lost out on $2,000. Big freaking deal. Like, compared to
you figure, because I mean, we were what, $500-$600 more a month than what we wanted to be. We could have easily got something for that price, so we would have made that up in 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously you don't think about that.
Yeah, I remember that being a huge thing, and now I'm like, oh, we should have just let go of the 2,000 and not cared. It would have been hard. It would have been stressful to not buy the house. Now, hindsight, it's like, well, that's what we should have done, obviously. And I hear from people who say that because we shared our story, because I talk about our downsize, they don't. They were like, oh, we were about to buy this big house and we didn't, or we were about to upsize and I didn't feel right about it, so I didn't, and thanks so much. It's huge. I think that gut instinct is so important, and I've ignored mine so many times in my life. And that was one of the times. But I just tried to like make everything okay. So I know when we started talking about potentially downsizing, I was saying that I really wanted like a one level because that's what my grandma lived in and I loved that house. You didn't really want a one level at first?
At first I didn't know. I mean,
like a split level.
Yeah, I want to.
You.
Well, I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I've always liked split entries. Glad that we're in a Rambler right now. I would never want anything but a Rambler going forward. I remember like they were putting up split entries, and we actually looked at them before we moved into that another house, and they were just like reasonably priced. It's like, that's why I wanted that. But no. And most of the Ramblers that we looked at, I didn't like the layouts of them, so I really like our house. Like I said, Ramblers where I'm at.
And I feel like we allowed ourselves to dream a little bit. I don't know if I've shared on the podcast the story about how we got our house. Maybe I will really quick. But that, I feel like we were like, we want a one level, and we wanted bedrooms for all of the kids if possible. And we wanted like a master bathroom for ourselves because that was something we always really liked having was our own private bathroom. Really wanted an open floor plan. But in our area at the time, there was like no ramblers. One levels were like not a thing. Um, and we have an unfinished basement. And we said like we liked the idea of an unfinished or like a walkout basement. So that's one thing our house doesn't have. But we actually went and looked at our neighbor's house. Like I'm literally looking at the house that our neighbors live in. We went there first because that house was for sale, and it's beautiful. Like they had done it really nicely. It's a what's it called? A modified two-story. And I remember I'm such a creeper, and I was just talking to Tom about this the other night. But I'm like, I laid in their bed like a weirdo, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like my house. But I know it's because I'm like sort of, but I'm saying like it just didn't feel right. But it was like within our price range. It was a beautiful house. It was in the area we wanted to be in.
Well, that I mean, like every house that we looked at, I mean, we had to go put an offer on it. So
Right.
it's like pretty much had to put an offer on anything you were somewhat interested in at the time.
Yeah, there was that stress behind it, and like we were starting to look in like different cities, which we didn't really want to do. We liked our city.
Yeah, I mean, we put some offers.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it just felt really exciting to find something that was nice. That was where we wanted to be, but it just didn't feel right. So we left that house to go put an offer, and we went to write up the offer at like a local restaurant with our realtor at the time, our new realtor, and we were leaving and pointed to our house now. We're like, I wish the neighbors were selling. And we kind of like laughed, like, yeah, that would be perfect. Because it was a one level. We're like, oh, that'd be perfect. That's exactly what we want. Our offer was denied on the house, the first house, our neighbor's house. And it was like maybe, I feel like a month later, a couple weeks later, our realtor called us about our house, about this house, and showed us. We're like, oh, and it was one of those things, like instantly, like we put our shoes on and got out the door to go come look at this as fast as we could. And I remember being like, oh, the address is familiar. This is a familiar address. I was like, oh my God, that's because it's right next door. And we realized like this was the house that we literally said we wanted, which is so freaking weird to me. And it's everything. It's everything we wanted except for like we would have preferred one more bedroom and an unfinished basement, but we need two.
No.
Walk-up basement. You know what I mean. Okay, so now that we've been here for 7 years, over 7 years now, and we still have the unfinished basement, but we've talked sort of about finishing it. Do you still want to finish it?
I would like to. It's not a priority, but I mean, I would like to. I like having a finished basement.
I think more and more I'm like easing up to the idea, but like for the last few years I've been like adamant against like I've not wanted to finish it.
After Joe and Dana finished theirs, I just want to finish ours.
Oh, okay. Our neighbors finished their basement, and it looks really nice. I just don't want anything else to clean or vacuum. Like I already vacuum down there because there's so much Tucker hair. Our dog's hair is everywhere, so I already vacuum the unfinished basement, and all I think is like, let's just be one more place for people to trash and one more area for me to have to clean up. But now that our kids are becoming teenagers,
Right, I just think something that could separate us from the kids and their friends and something like that.
yeah, and they don't have TVs in their rooms, so we have one TV.
Oh, we have one in the basement.
Oh yeah, well, we do now. We have a TV in the unfinished basement, but it'd be nice to have it like set up. Anyway, so like you were saying I was talking about our old bedroom, that we didn't really like have a bunch of furniture in it or anything like that, and I felt overwhelmed at the idea of adding more furniture, which I didn't think I would. I was so excited to like, I loved the idea of having a loft and things like that. And then we had the loft, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this space? I don't know. Like, I just felt like I'm gonna have to fill it, but fill it with what? Like, we don't need another couch. We already had a family room. We had a living room. We had a formal living room. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a loft? It just felt like so much. And I was like, I guess I could make it into like a library space, but that would be like another couchy area. And like, how many couchy areas do we need?
It wasn't like a normal size loft. It was huge.
Well, yeah, but what's a normal size loft? I don't know. It was a big space, but when we already had all these other spaces, it felt like so much. But yeah, one thing I tell people is that you were very minimalist when I met you, and I wasn't so much. Talk about it.
What?
Just kidding. I just like you're the reason that I learned to have less.
I've never liked clutter. I don't like clutter. I don't like having stuff around that I don't use, that I don't need. Uh, I've always been one, like, if I had something and I would use it for a few months, whatever, I just felt like I don't need it, don't need to hang on to it, get rid of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never really liked having stuff around that I don't feel that I need. Let somebody else. Somebody else needs it. Let them have it. Let them use it.
Yeah.
I've always felt like that. I just don't like having extra stuff to take care of, extra stuff to clean up though.
No, I get it. You're always really quick, but I mean like a little too quick in my opinion. Where I think like you know like you like something would get dirty and you would just be like throw it away, and it was like, well no, like how about we clean the dirty thing, that kind of thing, like repair some of the stuff and
I
maintain.
mean, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff was obviously I got get rid of it too quick, and then I'd end up buying a new one.
Yeah.
A couple months later and stuff like that.
But for the most part, I think it's been okay. But like, I know when I first met you, I was like a big packer. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, tell me if you do, but like when we first started dating, I moved into your apartment with you. I brought like my big box of like memories, and it was just like a big memory box from like mostly high school stuff. And I was like trying to walk through each thing and like tell you about it. And you just looked so bored. Like you did not care at all. But I just kind of realized, like, I guess this stuff really isn't important. Like it didn't make me feel sad. Like I didn't feel like you were being mean. You could just see your like lack of enthusiasm on your face. Where I was like trying to make you like laugh about a pipe cleaner. I think it was like a pipe cleaner, and I'm like, no, but like something really funny happened, but I couldn't remember what it was. Like, and that's what I mean. Like I was like hoarder. Like I had like pipe cleaners and like balloons and like just random pieces of stuff that I had collected from high school. And now I think back and I think I was probably high school was a really tough time for me. That was like my relationship with my dad was broken. I no longer talked to my first stepdad. My mom and my current stepdad were fighting all the time. Like my home life was a joke. So I like really clung to my friends. So I think by having all of those memories, like it felt like I could keep the good times, like kind of hang on to the highlights of my life. But I actually decluttered um my memory box because of you.
Yeah.
Do you remember that though? Or no?
I remember you having the box. I remember. Well, yeah. I'm sure you tried to introduce me to everything in there.
Yeah, I did. And the closet. So I remember that, and then I remember like my closet when we met. Like I would just shove everything in my closet. It was just like there. I would like scoop up all the hangers and just dump them in the closet, and all the hangers would overlap. And you were like, "How do you hated that my hangers overlapped one another, and that like I had like wire hangers, plastic hangers, like whatever kind of hanger was just like all in there and shoved together." But like, do you want to tell the audience, Tom, what your closet looks like?
It's neat and organized.
But like specific hangers for specific shirts.
I like the wood hangers for my shirts. So they don't leave those little
Nipples on your
little
shoulders.
nipples on my shoulders that the plastic hangers do. I like them. My stuff's like color coordinated from light to dark.
Color coordinated from black to blue to white. That's it.
I got gray now.
Well, okay, gray.
But I have like my t-shirts, my polos, and then my long sleeves.
Yeah.
I got the thicker plastic hangers for my pants because the thinner ones leave creases in them. That's about it.
Yeah, that's just so funny. Like I just like didn't care at all. Everything was just shoved in there, however the heck I could get it in.
And then it was perfectly spaced apart.
Yeah, finger width apart hangers. I'm not quite there, but I did adapt. Like now I have all white hangers and I have like wood ones for my pants. But
It's
I remember the day I color coordinated my stuff, and I like was so excited to show you. I like rainbow color coordinated all my clothes, and I think I separated them like yours were, and it was so much easier. So like, I appreciate those little quirks. All right, feels like we're winding down. Huh? Yeah, I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about Tom's side because I can say Tom's side all I want, but I don't know. I think it's kind of nice to hear both people's perspectives. So my other thing that I tell people, this is what I should really say, is because a lot of times I hear from people, my spouse doesn't want to declutter, but I want less. And one thing I always say is like, you never told me I should have less. You never were like, get rid of your stuff. It's too much. You're driving me crazy. You were never like,
okay, I guess. I mean, if that's stuff that you want, stuff that you feel that you have to have, that's fine. I don't want I don't need the extra clutter. I don't want it.
yeah,
I've always, I mean, I've always lived a minimal lifestyle.
yeah. That's what I always say. Like, I appreciate that about you. And I think that like, because if you would have been like, you should get rid of that memory box, or you should clear some of this out, or you've got too many clothes, I would have like dug in my heels and wanted more clothes, and I would have never gotten rid of my memory box because like you're threatening it, you're trying to take it away from me. Um, by you not saying anything, it made me want to, just by seeing how much easier everything was for you to manage. Like your laundry took less time. You know, just like things like that. Like it was easier for you to put stuff away. It took so much time for me to put stuff away. Do you have anything nice to say about me? Thank you. Thank you. All right. Happy episode 100, you guys. um, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was kind of maybe fun to listen to, and we got through it okay. A lot of times Tom and I can get into like little giggle fits where we just can't even speak. So I think we did a pretty good job. But here's our little two-sided perspective of our downsizing journey. I'm really glad we were able to share it with you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me for the last 100 episodes. It means so much. And to have been able to go through the last year and a half, almost 2 years now with the podcast, sharing all of these different things, all of the journeys, all of the changes that I've made. Yeah, it feels pretty awesome to be able to bring episode 100 to you, kind of going back to the very beginning.